بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. We usually take this time before Salatul Jummah to answer any questions that have been submitted online. If you're interested in having your questions answered, you can either download our app, that's the Al-Hijrah app. It's available both on the Play Store and on the App Store, or you can go to our website, hijrah.org, that's HIJRAH.org. So last week we had left off on a couple questions. There are some stock gurus who advise copying the trades of politicians who have inside information. Is this okay? So usually what happens with politicians is that, and this is very unfortunate, and I think it should be considered illegal personally, but what happens is that many times they'll vote on a bill, and if they know the bill is going to pass, then this is going to affect the stocks of and affect the prices of certain businesses and companies. A recent example of this is that they knew that there was money that was going to be sent to Ukraine, and they were going to vote on it, and they knew it was going to pass. So what they did is they invested in all of these defense companies, and the price of those defense companies went up, and they took advantage of that. What they're doing is not permissible, right? What they're doing is not permissible because this is undermining the market, and it's not giving what's the word I'm looking for? It's not giving transparency in the movements that many of these companies are making. The question I would have is, where are you getting this information from? So if you know that this is a bill that's supposed to be passed, because the problem with bills is that we don't know what is happening in the discussions that are happening in Capitol Hill, right? So the discussions that are happening between the representatives or that are happening between the senators, what those discussions actually are, they usually have an idea when a bill is going to pass. We don't have that same type of information. So I'm just curious I would be curious to know is where you're getting this information in order to help make that trade. But if you have access to that information, it's information, and getting an edge inside business or getting an edge inside investments, I don't see a problem with that. Is it permissible to adopt a child? Now, there's a difference between adopting and fostering. The problem that we have many times is when we think of the word adopt, we think of tabanni, right? We think that we're going to take this child and this child is going to be just like my biological son or like my biological daughter. That's not the case. So adopting and fostering, these are very similar concepts, but basically what happens is that you would take a child into your care and you are responsible for that child. And in Islam, this is not only, I would say not only is it permissible, it is something that's encouraged. So if we as parents have the ability to adopt or to foster children, this is something that we should encourage with a few conditions. Number one, that child will not take my name. So when I adopt or I foster this child will not take my family name. He or she will maintain whatever name that they have. And they need to know that I'm not their father, and they need to know that, the wife is not their mother. Also, there are issues between maharim, so sometimes you'll have an issue like if it's a boy and you have daughters and they come to age, your daughters and your wife will have to take hijab in front of him. Or if you're fostering a girl, then she'll have to take hijab when she comes of age in front of you. So these are definitely logistic issues that everybody needs to think about when they adopt or when they foster, but it is something that is definitely encouraged. The third part of it is that this child will not be eligible for inheritance. So when it comes to irth, when it comes to inheritance, the child is not eligible for inheritance, but you can leave a portion of your estate as your wasiyah. So the inheritance has two parts, right? You have the irth part, you have the inheritance part, and you have the wasiyah or the bequests. From the bequests, you can actually give to your foster son or your foster daughter, but they are not eligible for actual inheritance or irth. Let's say you forgot to pray Maghrib and Isha, but you don't realize you forgot to pray Maghrib. You think you only forgot to pray Isha, so you end up making Isha, but you realize that you didn't pray Maghrib. Then if you prayed with the intention of Isha, it's okay. At the time you remember, you would pray Salatul Maghrib after that. Ideally, the salawat should be prayed in order, right? They should be prayed in order. You shouldn't change the order of the salawat. So do the best that you can to maintain that order. But the Prophet ﷺ, he said, pray when either you remember or you wake up. So these two situations, if I forgot, I don't remember, I happened to pray Isha and I was like, man, I don't think I prayed Maghrib, and you look back, then at that time that you remember, this is your time to pray, so utilize that time to pray, inshallah. What are the significance of dreams in Islam? Are they messages to be interpreted? So dreams at best can be tafa'ul, or something that we call I don't want to say, I don't use the word omen, but I want to use the word like a good sign that we can take for something. Any bad dreams that we have are from the shaitan. So don't look too much into those bad dreams or into those negative dreams. Can they be interpreted? Yes, but interpretation is it's a very abstract science. It's not something that is very precise. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to ask daily, did any of you see a dream? But he also was in communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he could actually interpret those dreams. And this is not something we see continuing with the companions. So the Sahaba, they didn't sit around with each other and say, hey, what did you guys dream about, or what did you see? And it's a science that's not very heavily explored. It's not something, and again, because it's not precise. In dreams, there's too many things that are abstract. There isn't a lot of precision. The only dream that is true is seeing the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to see him in our dreams. Ameen. How can Jummah prayers happen so much earlier than Dhuhr prayer? We had talked about this before, but if there is a need, right? If there is a need, then it's important for any community or any institution to look for solutions to that need and to the problem. So here at Al-Hijrah, number one, we have multiple Jummahs. Why? If we only had one Jummah, what would happen? Right? We have problems with 3 Jummahs, right? we have problems with 3 Jummahs, like with the parking and the room and all of these things. So the reasons we have multiple Jummahs is logistic reasons. We just don't have enough room to host everyone in one Jummah. So what do? You have multiple Jummahs. Like, what times do you do those Jummahs? And this is where you look into the different madhahib to say, okay, what time does Salat al-Jummah actually start? Out of the 4 madhahib, the Hanbali madhab, they allow Salat al-Jummah before Dhuhr. They say that Salat al-Jummah, it has a special and a unique hukum that it starts at Duha time. And Duha is basically sunrise. So even if we had an 8 o'clock Jummah, it would be permissible in the Hanbali madhab to have Salat al-Jummah at that time, and you have fulfilled your obligation. And this is why you have many institutions. So Dar al-Hijrah is not alone in this. You have many institutions that have looked into, okay, how do we come up with the solution? They said, okay, well, let's have it before Salat al-Dhuhr comes in. We can have Jummahs because we have this opinion available to us. The other problem is, okay, if we don't do it before Dhuhr and we do it after Dhuhr, how much time do we have then, right? Between Dhuhr and Asr, it might work during the summer months, but in the winter when Asr comes in at 2 o'clock, right, it's not practical, right? It's not practical, it's not reasonable. So in order to maintain consistency, what the institution has decided is to make it at this time, to make it before Salatul Dhuhr comes in, because I don't think anybody would be comfortable, even though you have, in the Maliki madhab, you have an opinion that it can continue into Asr time. Most people would not be comfortable praying Jummah at Asr time, especially when they know Salatul Asr has come in. So this is why, again, this institution and others have taken the opinion that we make it before Salatul Dhuhr comes in. And Allah knows best. Can the deceased hear you when you speak to them at their grave? No. The only ones that can hear are the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He can hear the salam when we give him salam, and and the qabrihi. But this is all that I am aware of. What is the best way to memorize and learn the meaning of the Qur'an? So memorization and learning the meaning, these are 2 separate things. Memorizing, you have to figure out a strategy that works for you. I know you'll have different mashayikh say, okay, just read the page 10 times. You'll have other ones that say, okay, you go and you memorize line by line. It really depends. Everybody's going to memorize in their own way. Try different strategies. See what works for you. Some people will say, okay, memorize 2 pages at a time. Some people will say, memorize 2 pages a day. Do that for a week and then go back and review the 10 pages that you memorized for that week. For some people this works. Some people, they'll forget everything that they memorized in the previous week. So I as an individual, or you as an individual, you need to figure out the strategy that works for you, because you want to memorize and you have to make that happen. Sitting with somebody who can oversee your memorization is always a good strategy, because they will help put you on a regiment. They will help put some structure to your memorization. The best way to learn Qur'an is, step 1 is to learn Arabic. And what do I mean by learn Arabic? Learn the vocabulary, the mufradat al-Qur'an. Because Arabic is a lot, right? It's a big language, but the vocabulary that's used in the Qur'an is a portion of the language, right? All of the Arabic words are not in the Qur'an. right? The Arabic in the Quran is representative of a portion of that. So focusing on those words, and you have a few books around this. They're called like 80% of the Quran, and these are words that are mutakarrar, these are words that are repeated throughout it. That is the best first step for anybody who wants to at least get a general understanding of what is being said in the Quran. And then if you want to go beyond that in order to read some of the hadith, understand what's being recited in the salah, going beyond into some of the books of tafsir, all of these steps take more time. So if you want to take this 80% step, I would say anywhere between 6 months to a year with invested time. If you want to spend more time and actually start reading other books, you're talking about 2 to 3 years. If you want to critically analyze those books, you're talking about 4 years. If you want to actually contribute and start writing, that might take 5 to 6 years. So every step takes more time. I think the first step is what most people are looking for. And like I said, there are a few institutions that are out there. I think so if you just look out, if you do a Google search for like 80% of the Quran, I think LQ Toronto still exists. Fawaqih, I think, has a program. But there's like a whole bunch of them. These are just examples that I'm sharing. You need to look what's best for you. But again, the most important thing with memorization and learning is consistency, ad-dawam. If I'm not consistent, I'm not going to learn, I'm not going to memorize. I can't memorize for 3 weeks and then leave it for 5. It's not going to work. And the Prophet ﷺ said, أَحَبَّ الْأَعْمَالِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَدْوَمُ. Right, the most beloved actions to Allah are the most consistent, وَإِنْ قَلْ, even if they're small. And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.